Well, just starting with sort of injuries and squad news, is the sort of the illness worked its way through, or is it still sort of hanging on?
I've not heard of anything new, so hopefully people will be recovering from it. So, yeah, it is me coughing. No, I think we'll be okay. Yeah.
So does that mean, I guess Rob was one of those who was suffering? Would he be available?
He'll be training today, so I'll see how he is. Yeah. So.
And then,
it's just trying to judge who's in the best state of mind and best state of health, I suppose.
A couple of sort of knocks from the weekend, or the midweek rather. Anything serious that's going to affect you for the weekend?
No, I don't think so. No. So today's an important day for us in terms of preparation. We'll see how they are. But yeah, well, I mean, look, we've had 2 home games and only picked 1 point up. But I think it'd be fair to say that we played pretty well in both games and had chances. So it just remains that very frustrating scenario of not making the most of the opportunities that we've had, and that's what it is.
And I suppose from the start of the season, when you were scoring so many goals for fun, the strikers are still doing a good job, but maybe not quite getting the same returns in goals. It sort of highlights the issues you've got at the other end of the pitch.
Yeah, I mean, they're working hard, but in terms of taking the chances, then I suppose that's. I've said before that when defenders make mistakes or goalkeepers make a rip, then it's very obvious and people criticise them. But for me, the strikers are in the same situation. Chances come their way, they've got to take them, and that's how they judge themselves more often than not. So, but providing they keep working in the way that we need them to work, then I mean, it's goals will come, but of course we're not keeping enough clean sheets.
And the defensive work has certainly improved from last season, so you can see that improvement. But you've still got quite a young defence, other than 1 or 2, and they've not been around for much of this season. Is that just something that you have to not put up with, but players learn and become less accident prone over the course of their careers in general?
You're a very kind man. You are one of the few who look at positives, which is good. That's how I try and view things. So it's looking at how we can improve the players, and so players who have come into the side recently, both George Tanner and Cam Pring, I think they've done pretty well in their performances that they played. Obviously, we'll be without George now because of his sending off. But unfortunately for us, we're still, we are making errors which are costing us. So, I mean, whether there is improvement or not, and I think there has been. What we do lack is that leadership at the back. I think that's where we miss Cal Naismith in particular. But what I will say is Zach Viner, I think, has improved tremendously this season. So it's a team thing. We need to defend better as a team.
And you mentioned, obviously, Cal's been injured. Tim was on the bench. Thomas has had a little niggle. At any of the ones who've been missing in contention, or is it still too early?
Thomas will be training again, so he'll be. I think he'll be closer than Cal. Cal's is just a very frustrating injury because it's not necessarily a serious one, but it's just. Some people are quicker healers than others, unfortunately, and that's how it is at the moment. So we just have to be patient with Cal.
And again, on the defensive side of things, he's so comfortable on the ball, which has caused problems on occasion, but it's also been really positive in lots of situations. And I'm not sure you've got maybe Rob Atkinson possibly, but there is not another player in the back line that's quite as comfortable at getting you started and being creative as he is.
No, that's it. Yeah, I mean, that's a fair observation. I think I think you're right with that, but I always judge the defenders by how reliable they are in terms of what they do to stop goals, and it is a big bonus to have somebody like Cal Naismith who is can break lines with passes which get you up the field with real penetration. I think that's the difference. We just have to keep things simple at the back at the moment.
Into midfield, I thought Alex Scott had a very good game. He's still looking for that goal, but do you still have to sort of pinch yourself sometimes that he's 19, the way he sort of has adapted to life and become a mainstay of this team over the last year?
Not really, because now if players aren't playing in the first team by the time they're 19 or 20, they're probably not going to make it. And so I think what you'll find here now, because of our circumstances with limitations in terms of being able to bring players in by spending money, players will get chances earlier, but they'll only get them if they're good enough. And so Alex Scott has, I think right from day one, we've all recognised his talent in as much as his game understanding and being able to play like a senior player. But what he has also done is, he's physically developed quite a bit over the last 2 years. So it doesn't surprise me. It would have surprised me had he have plateaued, but no, he's still making really good progress, and that's good for us. And he's a very important member of our squad. So yeah, we're pleased to have him.
And you talk about having to maybe blood youngsters earlier than bigger clubs with bigger resources, kind of thing. So looking at Dylan Kadji making his debut, Josh Lowe's been on the bench. Are you seeing in that sort of level of the top of the academy players who may get their opportunity in the next 3-6 months?
They'll get the opportunities if we think it's right. And I think, look, I'm not moaning about the fact that we don't have money. Actually, it's quite a liberating thing to have lots of talented players within the building, and it means that for both myself as a manager and the other staff, we are genuinely excited about the talent that's coming through at this football club. So I don't view it as being having to blood them. I think it's really quite exciting for us, and I think for the club itself, what it does is it shows the opportunity that players are going to get, and actually I think it's good for the academy's staff as well, that they have some real meaning to how they work themselves. So I'm just very pleased that our recruitment policy in the academy is what it is, and that is that they're very, very good at sourcing good players, and that doesn't mean that they're all I call them tippy tappy. PlayStation players. We don't want those. We want proper players, and so yeah, we're doing well with that. But going back to what we're trying to do here, it's much easier to bring youngsters into the team if there is a solid foundation, and we've struggled at times to create that. But what I will say is there's some really good senior pros here who do look after the youngsters both in training sessions and when they play in games, which is good. So yeah, we're trying to make progress, but unfortunately we're not getting enough points in league games, which is what everybody wants.
So next opportunity to do that is up at Middlesbrough this weekend. Yeah. Probably haven't had the season that many were expecting, but a very talented squad which will give you issues at the weekend.
Yeah, they had a good win against Hull. So new manager. Championship games are very similar in lots of ways, but also can throw up a few differences. And I think Borough are one of the few sides that adopt a 4-4-2 or loosely a 4-4-2 formation, which so it's they will pose us different problems. They're a side that they cross the ball regularly, and so we've got to both work hard to stop that at source and then deal with it. So, but I think we'll have chances in the game just because of the nature of the player or the types of player that we've got, and because of the way that they play. If we defend with discipline, we'll get opportunities against them.
Thank you very much.
Okay, cheers.
So go back to Zach Liner. What has he brought to the game this season that perhaps didn't have at the end of last season or second half of last season?
More reliability. So he's matured. He's I think he's had to fight for his place, and there's doubts on whether he was going to stay here or not. So yeah, good response from him, and I'm very pleased for him. I don't. When we make decisions on potential departures at the football club, and then it changes because the player is able to change how we view the situation, then that's good. That's good. And look, Zach's a good player. He's come through our academy. He's probably suffered from being versatile, so he's been played in various positions. But he's gained experience and developed through the players that he's played alongside as well. So those things together are all a part of players' development. Even players in the 30s can still improve and develop themselves if they've got an open mind.
And just with Camper, a month or so ago, you spoke about him. You were favouring him in the left wing back position. Is that still the case?
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, but it's through necessity that he's had to play at centre back. And he's still reluctant to get forward at times, even with the pace that he has. I think he's defended and played pretty well in the games.
Would you like to see more of that than him making those runs forward from that position being maybe? Is it a case of being braver going forward?
Possibly, but I mean, it's I don't know. You get an opportunity to speak to him yourself in a bit, aren't you? So, for once, I can say you can ask the players, and you can ask the player. I mean, he's a player that I think has, he's been here for quite a while now, maybe 5-6 years as a player. He's been out on loan a few times. Last year was his breakthrough year, if you like, for us. And he got, he was played as a wide player, as a wing back, as a centre back, and he did okay. But he's got more to come, and he needs to continue to push himself in the same way that we've just spoken about Zach. My view is like that for Cam, that he has genuine pace and he's a powerful player, and he needs to push himself as well as us pushing him, and that's the big thing.
I read your interview with Sky Sports
the
other day, and talking about needing mavericks in the side to make it a bit less boring. In what respect to make it less boring?
Well, I'm sure when you come and interview me, you probably think, what mood's he going to be in? So, and I like players who keep me on my toes as well. So I think there needs to be some uncertainties. You don't want everybody to be the same. I think it would be, that doesn't mean players that lack discipline and lack an understanding of what the team needs, but you need strong-minded people, determined people, reliable people, and you need people who can bring something different. Because, for instance, a game like we played the other night that turns out to be a real frustration because we battered them and lost. And we lost because we defended one phase of play not very well, and the officials couldn't get it right. So, but then at the other end, we couldn't find the way to unlock the door or take the chances when they came along. So sometimes it's a personality which is different. Sometimes it's a player that has something different as well, and they're more often than not they are creative players, I think. But you do get defenders like that too occasionally, which that are very they're priceless.
I was just wondering whether the attempt to sign Kadra in the summer kind of tapped into that need.
There's an element of that, and maybe the lad's thinking he should have come here because they hooked him off after 30 minutes. But that shows you that players have to make decisions about their career rather than their agents, or rather than that's I don't know exactly what happened, but you asked me about loan players, and I've been asked about loan players on many occasions, but and he was a player that we were very keen to take, but it's an example of it's got to be all three parties that are in line with each other, and that is the club that owns the player that the club that the player goes to, and the player himself, and so it's because we don't take one player doesn't mean then right, we're definitely going to take somebody else, because that's the player that we want, and the other loan opportunities that we tried to get weren't doable because they were too expensive, or the clubs that own the players decide that we're not the right club for them. So there's loads of things to consider.
Factors. So in an ideal world, could that sort of personality be something that you still like to listen to this team, possible?
Yeah, I like him as a player. I think he's a match winner. Yes, he's probably high maintenance, but that's where I think our dressing room could deal with somebody like that now, where in the past they couldn't.
Are they difficult to manage, Mavericks?
Oh, I can't generalise, because your idea of one and mine might be different, but they're a challenge, I would say.
I just wanted to ask about the statistic about having really good results when they've got less than 52% possession, and also good when they've got more than 52% possession. What does the side need to do to be able to kind of break that trend, and is it about creativity going forward? How do you see it?
Yeah, because we're not really a possession-based side. We are a counter-attacking side, and so one of the best ways to play against a side like that is to let us have the ball. So one of the best things that we can do is, as long as we give the ball away in the right area, we become very dangerous. No, I mean, look, that's one way of looking at it. We need to also be able to break teams down who decide to play, who want to play counter-attacking football. But look, what you'll see a lot in the Championship now is, because of the nature of the football that you see, there's lots of really good counter-attacking teams. I think what it shows you more than anything, 52 to 48 is not a massive thing. If it was, but it is an interesting thing to observe. But that's the trend. I think most teams that you play have players who can hurt you on the counter-attack, and yeah. So, but it also means that you need defenders who know how to defend 1v1, are really good at organising. So when we are attacking, that's when, or as a rule of thumb, when your team's attacking, that's when your defenders have to be the most alert, because that's when you're at your most vulnerable. And that's why organisation is important, and that's why clever defenders are very, very important, because their awareness is heightened when other people might think that's not the danger. It's so obvious the rest of the time. You know, when you're defending, if you're not alert then, yeah. Okay?
You mentioned earlier in the year when Naismith got injured, about when King dropped back, about having that leadership at the back rather than bringing on a Pringle or Tanner. With the three, with Zach and the two like fullbacks playing back three at the moment, do you think Zach's got that bit of leadership, or do you think that's still missing a little bit?
A bit of both, but Zach has stepped up in that regard. I thought he was really good against Swansea in that regard. I think it was very visible. So yeah, but leadership is more than organisation. So leadership is a presence and having some sort of an aura as well. So people only follow you if they trust you. They won't follow you if they're, just because people in authority doesn't mean that people will follow them. It just means that they're in a position of authority.
Do you think Max has added that extra dimension with that? It was a bit on Tuesday night where we were kind of shocked with how much he was playing the ball out around the back.
Look, he's really positive. He's a good all-round sportsman. He started his football career as an outfield player. He's a good organiser and he's brave. So I think he's deserved his chance, and he's. I like goalkeepers that are very, very positive.
3 games to go now to the World Cup. Last time around, the international break kind of halted your momentum a bit.
Yeah.
This time around, you kind of not welcoming it, but it will give you a
No,
chance
I'm not
to
welcoming it at all.
get some players back fit.
No, I'm not welcoming it. I'm just sort of viewing it as it's here, and we will do our best to get as many people back as possible. So it's an opportunity, but I don't sort of welcome it. It's it just seems odd that we're have a major competition mid-season, but that's what it is, and we will try and make the most of it for sure.
And what will the World Cup look like for you? Obviously, no games. Will you kind of switch off, or will you consider scouting low league matches, or kind of try and get a bit of rest for another busy period afterwards?
Bit of all of them, I would think. It's going to be an important time for us to prepare for the next window, depending on whether we can or can't do business. But we've still got to do the groundwork on that and make sure that, because if we do business, I want to do it immediately. I don't want to do it at the end of January, because that's a waste of time. You've wasted a month. So we've got to be, if we do have aspirations to bring people in, then it makes sense to do it as early as possible. So this build up to whether it be the World Cup break or just until the window opens is always very, very important. Pleasure. Okay. All right, chaps.